Eggs is a podcast about all things creative, regardless of what that means to you. From the creativity involved in launching a business, building a brand, crafting an entertainment career, or whatever, we talk about the process of growing your egg from start to finish. Today's show is brought to you by Goodside Skateboards. Go to www.goodsideskateboards.com for great deals on decks and awesome t-shirts and pretty much anything you can think of. Well, not quite. Anyways, enter Egg Show, that's EGGSSHOW, when you check out. Get 20% off? Yeah, I think it's 20%. Anyways, Egg Show when you check out to get 20% off at goodsideskateboards.com. Also, don't forget to check out our friends at Deli Fresh Threads. They're a Florida-based clothing company. They specialize in t-shirts and other apparel. And they celebrate what they call the king of meals, the sandwich. Check out their website, delifreshthreads.com. And make sure you enter Egg Show when you go to check out for 10% off. That's EGGSSHOW. Get 10% off when you check out. All right, delifreshthreads.com.
People, are you ready? Let's start the show. Let's start the show. Don't worry about the president. He can't stop us now. He can't stop us now.
Calling out to all every group, we gon' make it all happen right here, right now. Calling out to all every group, we gon' make it all happen right here, right now. Calling out to all every group, we gon' make it all happen right here, right now. Calling out to all every group, we gon' make it all happen right here, right now.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I'm Ryan, he's Mike, and with us is our dear friend, the Borja Factor.
Hi everybody.
So we are trying to wrap up this year, and we wanted to put together...
It just won't end.
Yeah. Wanted to put together a little holiday rewind, recap for you all, and sort of go out with style and celebrate the holidays with the Eggs crew.
So, when did we decide to do this thing?
Yeah, so taking a little walk down memory lane. The show kicked off somewhere around the first part of June.
Okay.
Which is amazing to me. I can't even believe we've stuck with it this long. But I'm glad we have. I mean, it's been fun. But I mean, it's not a small accomplishment to produce a show for 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually quite a lot of work. I mean, I don't know how long it takes you to do the artwork and all that, but it's
between
a few
that
hours
and then all the social media
time
stuff,
and,
travel, posting, booking guests, all that stuff. I mean, it's really time consuming. And
yeah.
We have a small team, and it's basically just me and Mike and a handful of friends, but really me and Mike are the people behind the show, and it's
and Borja too.
Well, yeah, I mean, Borja's around for moral support. He's like a mascot.
Yeah.
So
I try my best.
Can we get him a costume?
We should get him a costume. He could be a big egg. Let's get him a big foam egg costume.
A Humpty Dumpty outfit.
I'm not gonna say what I'm thinking.
This is a podcast. You have to say what you're thinking.
No, I don't want you to cut my part.
Gonna edit.
Yeah, this could have been your last show, so I think it's probably good that you were careful.
Yeah.
So the show started up in June. The sort of the main thrust or the big reason for doing a show at all, or the reason it was sort of in my mind anyway. I think we each came to it with sort of different needs or different thoughts. But for me, it had a little bit to do with my design business, my little agency, and we were trying to find ways to just generate content.
Yeah,
just be putting something out there.
Yeah, instead of, working for clients the whole time, it's good to, generate some, just content for you as well.
Yeah, well, and, for SEO purposes or, social media or marketing or whatever, I mean, it's important. You put out content and you just say things into the ether.
Yeah, well, not only that, it's amazing networking.
Yeah, it's tremendous networking.
It's amazing how many people and how willing they are to just tell their story, and it opens doors.
Well, and I think for me anyway, and I won't speak for Mike, but I think he probably feels the same. It's pretty rewarding. Like, I mean, it kind of feels good to do something like this and to have something that we can own, that kind of, is something. I mean, we're clearly getting by some great guests that we've had on the show, and other people who sort of are believing in us or being willing to be a part of it. And I don't know, it's kind of satisfying.
Yeah. What do you think your favorite episode is?
I have a number of them, but it's kind of for different reasons, right? So I mean, if I'm just going down memory lane and being sentimental, I think all the way back to episode 1, and now when I go back and listen to these first episodes, they're cringeworthy for me.
Yeah.
It really bothers me, but we leave them up as a record to where we've been and where we are, and hopefully we're better. But that was sort of symbolic, I think, of kicking this thing off, of getting started, and actually putting that first step out there.
Yeah, it was in like a guest room in the pool house at the apartment complex that you live in.
And it was kind of a funny thing because it's just, or it's not a funny thing. It's just, we sit and talk about people's processes and about people's eggs, moving them through, a process. And, but every process, no matter who you are or what you're doing, begins with that first step. And so for us, episode 1 symbolizes that first step. So it's got sort of a sweet place in my heart. I think as far as maybe most pivotal show or most important show, it would be hard to rank them because there are some that are different or important for different reasons. I think having Will Truran on the show as a sort of
Noble Folk,
he was our very first interview, also our first call-in, sort of a remote guest, and so that was really an interesting process, kind of a milestone for us. We've had a couple guests along the way who are also sort of milestone guests for us. People like Gina Grad and Desi Valentine, Sean O'Neill, these guys that have had a little bit of time in the spotlight.
Guys from Relic.
Yeah, the
Borja's brother.
Borja's brother, Alvaro Navato.
What about Borja?
Well, Borja, I'm not sure what episode Borja appeared in, but when Borja came on board, it sort of changed the dynamic.
Well, I think he literally got off the plane and was like, hey, you want to be on a podcast?
Well, yeah, so that would put it August-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we found, after bringing Borja into the show, and when Borja's not around, other guests and things like that, having that third wheel in the room has really changed the dynamic of this show. And, not that Mike and I aren't super amazing performers, but having a third person to sort of bounce off of and to riff off of, I think has done a lot for the show.
Oh, it's night and day difference. The first, 10 episodes where we didn't have a guest, or it was more like 14.
Yeah, I think Will came on maybe around episode 10 or 11. I should probably look that up. That would be a fact to share.
Yeah, it was really hard because we're trying to, we're messing around with news stories. We're messing around with, stuff that's kind of out of our wheelhouse just because we're trying to keep, content going and keep just the show flowing, and having another person to just kind of bounce ideas off of and just even contribute here and there makes a big difference. And interviewing people too is really fun for me. I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's super cool. And I mean, okay, so Will was on episode 15. But Borja, I think, arrived somewhere just before that. So around episode 12 or 13, something like that, we started having a third guest. And that definitely, I think improved the show a lot. Yeah, if you go back and you listen to some of those early episodes, they're pretty flat. And, it was Mike and I basically on training wheels trying to figure our way and figure out what the show was, because...
And the funny part is we're gonna look back next year at this episode right now and think the same thing.
Yeah.
Because we're just going to get better.
What a bunch of rambling, meandering assholes. I wish they had a point.
Yeah.
They should have prepped for this.
No joke, right?
But that's kind of the thing, right? Is, we've been trying to figure out what the voice of this show is as we've gone. And
so, speaking of that, trying to figure out the voice and the layout of the song, whatever eggs is, let's tell the story of the intros.
Oh, okay.
Because we never did that. We never got that out. The first one was just kind of off the cuff. We needed something, so I had an instrumental and I did some scratching. Lucas said it's eggs or something like that.
Well, so to go way back, and I'm not sure.
It was the first episode,
but so the reason the show is called Eggs is years ago. I can't remember the year, but it was over Easter. we were actually in Vancouver, Washington, of all places, and we were having Easter in Vancouver, and we were in a hotel and everything, but we were trying to figure out how to make Easter special for the boys, for our kids. And so we, went to every stinking Five and Dime in Vancouver and tried to find Easter stuff, which was not super easy.
You're going to 7-Eleven trying to find an Easter egg basket.
But we managed to rough some things together or whatever. And Easter morning comes around, and the Easter eggs are all over our suite, and we've got and the boys are ready to start hunting eggs. And Lucas, our youngest, turns to me and he says something like, get all the eggs, Daddy. Get all those eggs.
Yeah.
And it sort of hit me as something like kind of a metaphor for business or for life or for work or whatever you're doing. Get out there, collect all those eggs, right? So I stuck it on a list. I have 1 million of these lists, and it just sat there for years. And so fast forward to this year, and we're having conversations about getting the podcast going.
Well, we'd been talking about the podcast for a long time.
Yeah.
And then we finally sat down to think about it and brainstorm on what we wanted to do.
How would we actually do it? What is this thing? That kind of thing. And we'd talked about a couple different ideas, and we arrived at doing kind of a creativity show where we talked a little bit about, the creative process and some different things, because Mike's a DJ, I'm an artist, and there's a lot of parallels.
It's
just in being
shocking
creative.
how many are similar.
Yeah, it's just creativity. It doesn't matter really what you do with it or what the output is, but it's being creative. And so, so we were trying to come up with names, and we didn't get very far before I said, "Hey, what if we call it eggs?" And I sort of
at first I hated it.
Yeah, and I sort of explained this metaphor. Geez, Mike, we're finding out a lot of things lately. Last week you hated the logo. Now
the
you
logo,
hate the egg.
but like I said last week, they've both grown on me, and I
was going to say,
I said,
maybe the moral of the story is that I'm right
all the time.
So anyway, so we decided to go with eggs, and we just set out and recorded our first show and figured out how to get published and did all that stuff, and we did it. And so so anyway, so that's the story behind the name Eggs. So if you go back and listen to those early episodes, though, there's one thing that happened the first day, the first time we sat down to record, is we were recording like in this pool house, and it's kind of a shared space, but it was a private room. And at some point in the middle of it, we got bothered or interrupted or something.
Well, he was getting babysat, and they were going to go do something, and they stopped in the pool house to get the keys or something to the car.
Yeah, Grandma was taking Lucas someplace, and so Lucas came in, and he saw the microphones and all that stuff, so he just sat down. I had to go out and talk to Grandma, so he had about 5 minutes on the mic, and in fact, sometime we ought to do something with the Lost interview, with Lucas, because it's pretty funny. And so
I'll have to pull that back.
I mean, there's
up.
not a lot of sense in it, but it's worth listening to.
I asked him about get all the eggs and where the name Eggs came from, and had him say it, and then I took him saying "get all the eggs," and that's how we made the first intro. I just scratched that over the top of a random beat.
Yeah, which my older son was super pissed about because he wanted to be involved, but Lucas got the theme song.
Yep.
And so Ethan came along much later for the.
Lucas got 2 theme songs.
Yeah, that's true. There was a second one.
He got the sample and the scratch, and then the beatboxing.
Oh, that's right.
On the second one. So the second one that we did, the whole beat behind it is Lucas. He just same recording everything. He just sat down and just was doing some beatboxing, and he actually nailed a couple solid beats, and I was able to chop it up and make the second intro with it.
So anyway, so Ethan came around much later in the critically acclaimed Ethan's Corner.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago when they did the movie review with Borja and Ethan. So anyway, but Ethan is dying to make some more appearances, so I suppose he'll come around at some point.
We'll have to go. Have you seen the new Star Wars?
I haven't seen it yet. We haven't gone.
Yeah, we tried to go.
Yeah, we tried to go, but it was too busy, so we ended up going to Justice League.
Okay.
And everything I'd heard about Justice League said it was going to be bad, but I thought it was fine. I mean, it was on par with all that stuff. And for DC, which aren't generally as good as the Marvel movies anyway, I thought
we're going to be the first media to to say that it's a good movie, right?
Yeah, maybe we'll get red carpet next
We
time.
give it 3 rotten eggs.
Yeah, we got to figure out our movie rating system. I'm not sure Rotten Eggs is where we want to be. I mean, it works for Rotten Tomatoes, but I mean, for us, I don't know. So Rotten Eggs may not be what we want to call them.
Ostrich eggs.
Ostrich eggs?
Those are big.
Yeah, those are big ones. Ooh, an ostrich egg omelet. Speaking of omelets, so we had Spanish omelet today.
Ooh,
and
delish.
Borja's girlfriend's in town, and Borja doesn't cook because he's useless, but she cooks. and so she came in and made a Spanish tortilla today. And for anybody that hasn't had it, it's basically just an enormous omelet, but it's awesome. It's one of my favorite things, and so she came in. So anyway,
I tried to make an omelet last week. I got to the part where I flip it over, and it fell apart. So I had scrambled omelet something.
That's not posted on your Instagram, right?
Yeah, it's actually it was delicious, but not an omelet.
all right. Well, we're digressing, gentlemen. So we've come together here this holiday season, and what we've got for you is a fun little clip show. We've gone back, picked out some of our favorite moments from the year, and granted, we only have half a year to work with, but there's some pretty highlights.
Well, there's about, I don't know, 10, 15 good episodes with interviews of people.
Yeah. I mean, and really, of the 33 episodes that we've got out right now, I mean, more than 20 of them are good quality materials, 25 of them even. And so there's, a fair bit to sift through, but we went back, we picked out some of our favorite moments. I picked a few, Mike picked a few, and Borja's picked a few. And yeah, so we want to go back, do a little recap for the year, do a little clip show like all these podcasts do this time of year. And yeah, sort of wish everybody a Merry Christmas and send you out on a positive note.
Yeah. So we'll start it off with who? Who do you want to start it off with?
I don't know. Well, why don't we go back to episode number 15? Let's grab a little bit from Will Trurin.
Okay.
It was our first interview, and what was really interesting about that interview was it was also our first time using Zencaster software.
Yeah,
which we've been using,
and it worked perfect.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't shut up about it for weeks after that. And but it was our first time doing a remote guest for one, any guest for two, really. And outside of Borja in studio, and he's barely a guest. Yeah. And so
yeah, we're gonna. I have a couple highlights. I think.
Yeah,
that we could just talk about them later on.
Yeah. So anyway, so this episode or the episode with Will was a lot of fun. He was a really great guy. I think he sort of captured the essence of the show we were trying to start producing.
Yeah, he nailed it. It was a great interview, and he's a fun dude.
Yeah, and I think that pivot there, like that was sort of instrumental in the way that we sort of pivoted the show into more of an interview format versus just us blah blah blahing. And I think that was a really key moment for us. So without any further ado, here's a little clip from Will Trurin.
So I think it was like 2001 because it was Photoshop 6. So like pre-CC's Photoshop 6. We got a copy of that at home that my dad was able to take from like Nabisco when they upgraded. So like 2001, that's like 17 years ago.
Yeah.
So I was 10 or 11, just playing around with like the different layering options and that stupid effects palette that we all hate now.
Drop shadows, baby.
Dude, that's my go-to right there.
And
Double boss.
So just from like that early age, I was able to like start really like diving into what digital art or digital design could be.
It's funny because I started on Photoshop 5, and same thing. It was a company copy that was I worked at the time. I was working for a semiconductor plant, and I don't even know why they had a copy of Photoshop, but I found a copy of Photoshop 5 on their network.
Yeah,
and so I would sit and noodle around with it at night. And actually, we talked about it on an earlier show once, but the fruit of my labors. There was the zebra on motorcycle was born.
I remember that.
I won't get into the whole story again, but yeah, Google zebra on motorcycle, and you will see that it's 10,000 pages of my first Photoshop project.
Yeah, and I'm sure like you can agree with this. Like back then, there was no resources for like anything. I was lucky because like Nabisco would pay my dad to go get like certified, which is a joke now. Like, he's gonna go get Adobe Photoshop certified for anything serious.
Yeah, could you
But
imagine?
Nabisco was like all about that. So he would come home and be like, hey, "This is how you use the pen tool," and then just like hours of me struggling around with the pen tool.
I got my pen tool certification today, guys.
Well,
Pretty much.
the is it the pen tool in Illustrator that you do the outlines with, and
Yep.
that right there took me forever to figure
Yeah,
out
it's a
how
little
to
bit
get
of a
like
science.
get a good clean curve.
Well, and the one in
Photoshop.
Photoshop's even worse.
Yeah. So I could see why you would need a tutorial on that.
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
you ought to go get certified.
But I think like that freedom of just like doing whatever I could to learn whatever I could, like really helped me.
Well,
Me
and
and my
it's funny because
brother
I've found in most guys that are designers, most that are self-made, and most that are going it on their own, like you are now, that's sort of how we all learned it. Like, you know, there are people who will go to art school and they go that sort of path, but really it's the ones who take the initiative to learn it themselves or work on it on their own. Like, you're not going to get it out of a classroom.
Yeah, I did end up going to like a art college, or not art college. It was like a communication college that had a design program, and it was purely to get that piece of paper. Like, I hated every minute of it. I almost dropped out like 3 or 4 times. So like my parents were not stoked on that.
Sure.
Well, and it's good. I mean, in the sense that you're getting reps, you're doing projects. I mean, you know, it's not
Yeah.
a bad thing.
Except
it's
so, like,
just,
when I
it takes that
graduated-
outside-
When I graduated, I'd never put my projects into my portfolio. Like, all my like fellow students were like stoked on like their final projects and everything. And
you're
because I
sitting
grew
there
up,
going,
well, yeah, I grew up in entrepreneurship. Like, my dad, after leaving or getting fired from or let go from Nabisco when they like downsized, he went straight full-time freelance. So like even during college, I was trying to freelance and put like real life projects in my portfolio.
Yeah.
So like,
well,
I
and it's
didn't-
funny. Like, I complain about it all the time because so one of the big colleges here is called BYU. You know, Brigham Young University is one of the big schools here in Salt Lake.
Okay.
And they have a design program or an art program where basically they've built an internal agency for students. And as you're describing, the student portfolio is more or less all look the same. You know, they all did. You know, maybe it's a little different magazine layout or whatever, but they all do the same more or less.
same projects.
Yeah, but the real detriment that these guys at BYU are instilling in their students that just kills me is they get agency titles, like they work in an agency, and so
they come out with a title.
yeah, so
saying
they
were
come out as
creative
somebody,
director or
yeah,
something like
so
that.
So they come right out of college as creative director or
Good
whatever.
luck with that.
Well, so then when I go to these portfolio reviews and they show up and they, you know, everybody brings their portfolios and their resumes
And
and,
they all
stuff
look
like
the
that.
same.
They're like, "Oh, hi, I'm so and so, creative director." And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, you know, it took me a while to get to creative director.
Just a little bit.
Like, you don't get to just call yourself creative director out of college, you know. And so it's really a funny thing.
Do you ever
And,
call them out on it?
No, I never say anything. I just roll my eyes, but I try and
They'd
do it
cry.
honestly. Yeah, they would just bawl.
My
They'd be like,
first-
"No, I've been creative director for 2 years."
My first like full-time design job was a junior art director. I was just like, at that point, like, what are you?
Yeah. Well, and for people who don't understand, it's funny because, like, in the grand scheme of things, the titles aren't super important, but it does establish a little bit of a pecking order, especially in agency.
Oh,
and
for
so
sure.
people do get a little bit, on the defensive, I guess, because, you know, this kid shows up with 0 years experience in an agency as a creative director. That's offensive to the guy that spent 25 years trying to become
Trying to
one.
get there, yeah.
And so, you know, it's kind of a funny thing because, I mean, especially now in sort of more modern agencies, smaller agencies, more boutique shops, like, you know, most of the time it's make up a title because you have to put something on your business card.
Yeah.
It's like kind of not that big a deal, but in big agency culture, it's still kind of a thing. And so it is funny. But yeah, I always get a kick out of these college students. Although I will say BYU Ad Lab does a pretty darn good job. They produce a lot of good work and a lot of good designers. So kudos to them. But stop calling your kids art directors.
Yeah, that was Will from Noble Folk.
Yeah, how about that, guys?
Yeah.
I loved it. So, as we mentioned before that we played the clip, I mean, just, you know, really pivotal moment in the show, and I think it really set us up for this next clip that I wanted to get into.
Gina Grad.
Yeah, with Gina Grad. She's a co-host of the Adam Carolla Show. She was on a morning radio show in L.A., which is now switched formats to like Christian something, and she's no longer on that show.
Yeah, it was actually a really neat interview. Just hearing her upbringing, like her dad was in radio. It was kind of her foot in the door, and then she studied acting. What was the city? Akron,
Yeah,
Ohio?
Kansas City.
Kansas City. Yeah.
Yeah, the fabled Kansas City.
Yeah, but
and I'm mad with the Chiefs right now, so we're not going to say anything positive about Kansas City. But yeah, no, Gina was also sort of a pivotal show for us. I think, Will set us up or gave us the confidence to have a outside guest on and do an interview. But Gina, there were a couple different things. So first of all, we're scheduling somebody of, not to say other people weren't important also, but she was sort of our first celebrity.
Put it
type.
this way, she has a morning show that she did at the time, then she'd leave that and go and record with Adam.
Yeah.
And then on her lunch break, she was able to fit us in. So
Right.
she was busy.
Yeah. And for people who don't know, I mean, the Adam Carolla podcast is, world record holder for the most downloaded podcast. And she's, one of the co-hosts there. So for us, that was the nearest to like a celebrity interview we'd ever done. And also, she was our first phoner, legitimate calling in on a telephone.
And that was weird.
Presented some technical difficulties.
Because with Zencaster, we just download the file when we're done. This one, we had to actually record the conversation. And so we took like the headphone out of a phone, your iPhone, and she called the number. And I just recorded the headphone out.
Yeah, the audio in part wasn't so hard, but it was communicating back to her.
Oh yeah, we had to set the phone in the middle of the table, and
because she had to be able to hear us while we were talking back. Anyway, it was kind of fun. But anyway, Gina was a terrific guest. She's got an awesome backstory and a great current story. And
check her out. Yeah, hit her
really
up
grateful to have
on
her,
the social networks. It's probably just Gina Grad on Twitter.
Yeah, it'll be in the show.
It'll be in the show. Anyways, check it out. Here's Gina Grad.
Well, hey, I think by and large, folks know you as a broadcaster, but I know that wasn't sort of your calling at first. How did you wind up in broadcasting?
No clue. Actually, yeah, I was a theater major, and theater was all I ever cared about, and all I did was take acting classes and singing classes and dancing classes and everything that related to sort of a theatrical life. And I think I loved the theater more than it loved me. So I was in New York for a while, and I was doing some stuff, and I loved it. Ended up coming out here, and I just fell into a retail job on Rodeo just to make ends meet while I was auditioning and doing all this stuff, and realized that I was going to wrap my car around a streetlight if I didn't get out of this job. It wasn't for me. It wasn't my calling. It wasn't where I was supposed to be anymore. I was there for 3 or 4 years. And I finally had an emotional breakdown in the parking lot out back in the alley of Rodeo, and called my dad, who had been very established out here on the radio at that point, and said, I need your help. I don't know what to do. I don't know what you can do. If there's any way you could beg someone to just interview me for a job, I'll take it from there. I just can't do this anymore. So he got me an interview at KLSX 97.1, which was the big Southern California talk station out here, which Howard Stern was on in the morning and eventually Adam. And long story short, I interviewed in a business suit and like an accordion folder because I was desperate, way overdressed.
Completely not radio.
Right. And because of the aggressive nepotism from my dad getting me into this interview, I was awarded the glamorous job of being an overnight phone screener for block programming, which is like pay to play, the Colin Hour, and then also doing their community service show. So it was very glamorous.
If our show was a little more sophisticated, if our show was a little more sophisticated, I'd have some sound effects and glitter, and we're not there yet.
Exactly. Yes. So I started. I was a phone screener on the weekends overnights, and I kept my job on Rodeo, and I was doing stand-up comedy, and I eventually got to do a weekend show on Sundays in San Diego. So I was working about 60 hours a week on Rodeo, doing stand-up comedy at night, doing this on the weekends, and driving to San Diego for the day on either Saturday or Sunday, I can't remember,
Which for anybody
weekend
that
show.
Knows that drive, it's murder. It's only
If
supposed to be
you're
2
lucky,
hours,
you
but it
can
takes
do
an
it
eternity.
in, about 2.5, 3 hours.
Wow.
It was brutal. So, and then I would come in at night. and sort of practice in an empty studio. And eventually, Tim Conway Jr., who was also on the station, needed a producer and said, "Who is that girl that's always in there talking to herself? Well, she seems like she's a hard worker."
She's just crazy.
So, right, he's the best. He's
that's
he's
Gina.
one of my favorite people. He's the best. So when I actually was having another quarter life crisis, and I couldn't keep up the schedule anymore. I was getting sick all the time. I got T-boned in an intersection badly.
Oh, wow.
In Beverly Hills. I was basically laid up in my house in what felt like traction, and I got a call saying, "Do you want to go be on the Tim Conway Jr. show?" And I couldn't turn my neck, but I was like, "Yes,
Of
I'll be
course.
there."
Is this
So things
another?
just sorta-
Is this
Yeah,
another
when you
accident?
can't take it one more second. Yep.
Okay, so like I was listening to a YouTube thing that you had about rolling your car and landing on your tires.
That was a different one.
Okay, I was just
Okay,
I was
so
curious.
if we're learning anything, it's keep Gina out of the car. I was going to say
Yeah,
that,
make sure my seatbelt's on.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you've got to get T-boned, I mean, Rodeo's probably not a bad place for that. I mean,
It wasn't. It certainly wasn't. That their car certainly cost more than mine did. But what you're talking about is I went home to be in a friend's wedding, and long story short, I was on my way to the wedding. I got sort of run off the road by the car next to me. I don't know why they jerked the wheel. I don't even know if they were aware of it. I hit the median and flipped the car.
Oh, goodness.
And
Wow.
all the cars, this is how you know you're in Kansas, because all the cars stop and everybody gets out of their car and runs and make sure you're okay.
In
They don't
LA, they
stop
just
and go,
drive
"Oh, that's
by.
Yeah,
done."
in LA, they go around you.
Right. And
Hope
so
she's breathing.
the first responders came and put me on the bed thing. And of course I had no insurance, and I was just a mess, just constantly trying to make ends meet. I got to the hospital. The doctors could not figure out how I was not hurt, gave me I think 2 Advil, sent me on my way, and I hobbled down the aisle that night as a bridesmaid. I got very lucky.
Yeah, no, clearly. So I think, it seems like you've touched a lot of different parts of sort of radio programming, from phone screener to
Yeah.
producer to on-air talent. I mean,
Yeah.
as a drama major, I suppose your preference is to be on air, but I imagine each, do you have a preference on-air personality versus behind the scenes, or, because I imagine each has its challenges.
That's a really good question. It's not as obvious, well, it is to me, but it probably isn't as obvious to everybody. I think what I was meant to do and what I was meant to sort of cultivate and share, in my go-around in my lifetime is to really figure out who I am, what my perspective is, and share it with as much, love and humor as possible. I think that's why I'm here. So for me, being on air is home. It's where I'm supposed to be. However, I have basically no life skills. So when I got started in producing and then was producing a huge show at a huge news station out here, KFI, and having all this background experience is not something that I ever would have known inherently. I have earned my place as somebody who, can schedule things and book things and organize things and write things up for the talent and do all this stuff. And now it's just made me, I think it's made me a better on-air personality, because when I ask myself, what can I contribute to the show today? A lot of that has to be prepped. It needs some production. And now, it's a skill that I acquired through a lot of hard work, a lot of mistakes. And although I'd rather be on the air, I am so grateful for the time spent being a producer.
Well, yeah, and I guess... Well, how about that?
How about that?
All right. So I hope everybody just enjoyed our clip of Gene and Grad. I think I caught Mike off guard with the belch. However, I'm talking over it quickly so that he can't edit it out.
Oh, you're the worst.
So anyway, that was Gene and Grad. And as we mentioned before the clip, I mean, it's really that was a pivotal interview for us, and we really had a lot of fun with her. Next clip we want to share is sort of our first, I guess, international guest, a guy named Alvaro Navazo. He's the older brother of Borja, the Borja Factor, sports agent extraordinaire over in Spain, and he was here visiting
That was actually a really fun night. We went to the match.
Yeah,
I can't call it a game.
Yeah,
I
you
was
got
pouring.
it. Yeah, we sat out in the rain at the Real game.
We thought we could buy ponchos at the game, and you couldn't.
Yeah.
The only thing they had for sale were these like $35 like all-purpose weather blankets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we sat out in the
Lifesaver
rain.
though.
Yeah, I think Borja bought one actually.
You said that in the rain.
Or no, Mike.
I went with my brother to the VIP.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, Mike and I sat out in the rain, and because these other two are Spaniards, they snuck their way into the
Yeah,
back
we
VIP.
sneaky.
So, but anyway, Alvaro was an interesting guest because not only English not a first language, second of all, it was sports centric, and we hadn't really covered anything about sports or done any sports stuff before, so that was kind of an interesting thing. And also, we wanted to sort of talk a lot of soccer and talk a lot of other things because that's where he works and what he does, and that was kind of an exciting subject for us because I'm a big soccer fan here in Salt Lake, and anyway, it was kind of a cool time. So this was also the second of our many glorious hotel studios. We normally
Studio 6.
Yeah, we were normally using Studio 6. However, we upped our game to the what did we call it? The CI Suite or something. I can't remember.
It was Comfort Inn.
The Comfort Inn and Suite Studio.
That wasn't half bad, though.
Yeah, that was a much nicer hotel. So I think Mike actually ended up staying there. So at least we used the place.
Yeah.
And so that wasn't too bad. But anyway, so without further ado, and because I keep saying without further ado, I'll try and have a better one for next time. Alvaro Navaso. Going back, you went to college in Indiana.
Yes, I spent my senior year of college at Butler University in Indianapolis. And after I finished, I had to do an internship, and I contacted Major League Soccer, so they gave me the chance to be an intern there for 6 months.
And you've always been like a soccer guy, right? I mean,
yeah.
Super fan and
super
player,
fan,
right?
trying to playing, watching it all the time with friends, with family, always.
Now, of course, anybody who knows, sorry, Mike, I keep cutting you off.
I know, I just can't get a word in
Anybody
edgewise here.
who knows anything about Spain, so soccer is more or less the national sport in Spain.
It's a religion.
Yeah, it's a really
It's the
big
real
deal over there.
football.
Yeah, football, with the accent on the ut. So of course, like most Spanish kids, Alvaro grew up playing, but I think he was maybe a little better than his brother.
I mean, I don't know if he was better, but my father thought that he was better. So my father took him to the Atlético de Madrid trials and Real Madrid trials. So he tried to play for Real Madrid first. He couldn't make it. So then he tried.
It was very difficult because we were not living in Madrid.
Yeah, of course.
We were living far. So Real Madrid or Atletico Madrid pick boys from all over the country. So it's very difficult. I could have played there for them if had we lived in Madrid. But
For Atlético de Madrid, right?
yeah, and for Real Madrid too, even. But it was really difficult not living in Madrid.
I have to admit that he was better. He was like a player with class, and I was more like a striker. So just my
Scoring goals is the most important. Anyway.
that's the only thing I know how to do. But he knew how to pass the ball, assist the teammate,
And you just
score
like to
goals
take
too.
people out, just sweep the leg.
He was
right?
skillful. I have to admit that. But maybe he preferred to study rather than playing soccer. I think.
No, but anyway, soccer has opened me every door. Always in every place I lived, I've always played soccer with people, with random games, and that's how I've met a lot of people, a lot of friends in Indianapolis, in New York, in Madrid, in Valencia, wherever there is I've lived. I've played soccer, and that's opened me always a lot of doors and gave me the chance to meet a lot of people.
And so you mentioned while you were going to school in Indianapolis, you were doing an internship for Major League Soccer. What did you do for them?
Well, I worked in the marketing and communications department in the Hispanic side of Major League Soccer, with all the Hispanic media in South America, in Central America. with the teams coming to tours in the US, and also with the Mexican national team.
And that's your degrees in advertising, right?
Yeah, advertising, marketing, public relations. Yeah,
Well, and did you do any other type of work before this, or have you always worked in sports?
I've always worked in sports.
Okay. So now, shoot, what was I going to say? I'm losing it. So now he's working for a company. I think they're called You First Sports, right?
Correct.
And now he's working as an agent. So he's got players in the NBA. Well, his agency has got players in the NBA. They've got players in Major League Soccer, also in La Liga. Do they play elsewhere?
Yes, we have players, soccer players all over the world.
So
Right
this
now,
trip,
yeah.
you're visiting someone for the Sounders, and then you're flying
Yes.
off tomorrow and taking care of someone for the Timbers.
Yes, we have
In
players in
Portland.
the Sounders, in the Timbers, and in the Chicago Fire. I will be there on Thursday.
Oh, okay.
too.
And so can you talk at all about that? Like, you know, how do you, I mean, for me, like I love soccer, but I don't know that much about like the backstory of it. Like,
You were saying that there's like essentially 5 things that you kind of focus on with.
Yes, a sports agent in soccer or practically in any other sports have 5 main tasks, and we call them, well, the first one would be scouting, or knowing about players, checking about players, who you like, who you know. And number 2 of the process is probably the most difficult and the most important, which is recruiting, making those players who you know, making them your clients, convincing them to
Work with you.
to
come to
hire
your
us.
agency over another.
Yes. Number 3 would be once you recruit that player, well, to give them a good service, to keep in touch with him very often, to meet him, to visit him, to be very, very close to him in any aspect. And number 4 would be to deal with the clubs, to manage all the contracts. That's very, very important for the players, the most important thing we do for them. And number 5, and last but not least, would be to manage all the agent fees that we get from either the clubs or the players, because in the
Gotta
end
get paid.
we do it for business, of course.
Yeah. Well, and so maybe it's just me. I guess I've always had a simplified view of this. I just assumed the agents just took a percentage and that was kind of that.
Yeah.
How does it work? How do you guys get paid by clubs or by whomever? Like, do clubs use agencies to recruit players, or how does it work?
Well, actually, it's a strange system, because our clients are the players, but usually it's the clubs that pay you the agent fees, because it's a competition between clubs also, and if you as an agent, you are dealing with 2 clubs and one is paying the agent fee but the other one is not paying it, so it's the player who has to pay for it, then the offer of the club which is paying for the agent fee is a better offer. So in the end, pretty much all over the world, you negotiate the agent fees with the clubs, and you
Okay.
get a percentage of the total salary that the player gets, usually at 10%.
Okay.
Except for in Mexico, that the agent fees are always paid by the players. They are never paid by the clubs.
So he actually has to cut a check directly to the.
It just comes out of his
Yes.
salary or his
Yes,
fee.
it comes out of his salary, because in Mexico the clubs are owned by the most powerful companies in Mexico, and the players, the difference, the class difference between the owners and the players is so big that they don't treat the players very well. So they just don't care about their salaries or their agent fees. They make them pay.
So do you have clients in Mexico, obviously?
Yes, we have clients in Mexico, and they are used to paying the agent
It's
fees.
just the system there.
It's just the system there, because but it has also a social connotation.
I think that You First Sports is very important in Mexico, right? You have headquarters
Yes.
there.
We have our own soccer office there, and they represent 4 or 5 national team players.
The captain of the national
The captain,
team,
Andres
actually.
Guardado, which
you
MLS
recruit-
have always been trying to sign him. We represent him.
That's awesome.
Shout out to
Do you
Mexico.
recruit from Mexico a lot, or
No. In order to recruit players, you have to be in that territory very, very often in order to convince the player to meet them often. So
And you mentioned that you guys have offices all over the place.
yeah.
right?
So the recruiting there is managed by my colleagues in Mexico. Yeah.
Welcome back. All right. Well, for our next clip, it's actually clips, I should say.
Multiples.
We want
Because
to
Borja likes to make me work.
It's a capo, just a capo, I think.
Yeah, we wanted to go down memory lane again with and go back with a couple of our Borja Factor episodes. Borja mentioned having a few clips that he liked and he thought would be a lot of fun to share with the team. And
I did selected you selected that, right?
No.
Okay, yes, I did it.
Borja picked his own clips. You know, he kind of, he's kind of strong arming this in there.
Yeah, he's like, I need to be in the show.
So, but anyway, we got a couple fun clips of Borja. He's been a lot of fun this year.
Yeah,
And
thank you for being on the show.
Big part of the
I know
show.
we give you a lot of shit, and it's
My pleasure.
It's fun to
I
have
really
you.
enjoy this. My section, I know, is the most critically acclaimed of the show. But I work sometimes on the show. I try to prepare my section to write down some jokes, to try to bring my Spanish funny accent to the show, and, But thanks, guys, for this opportunity. Thanks, guys, for having me here.
not a problem.
I really enjoy this. So I hope that next year is going to be full of amazing guests if everything goes as planned, and of course with my corner, my factor is still on the show because
for sure.
Well, we haven't made any decisions yet. As to what gets cut
it's
and
the
what
end
goes
of the
forward.
year. We got to renew contracts.
my fee is going up.
So anyway, I almost said without further ado again. I need another one. Give me another transition.
Here's Borja.
I know. So I'm gonna talk about things I have learned since I'm here. It's been 3 weeks, 3 long weeks, Ryan. I'm doing okay. So because in Spain,
Yeah, listen carefully. He's going to start slipping in like the cry for help. He's going to say something in Spanish to call the police.
I'll go and edit this out. Don't worry, he's stuck. He's never going away.
So because Spaniards think that in Utah there are just people who carry guns, eat fast food, watch basketball, and go to the church, which is basically true. It's pretty accurate, except
Did
for
you
the
say
fact
in
that
Spain?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, or Spaniards.
I thought they couldn't carry guns in Spain.
No, they think that you guys
This
in
is what
Utah.
they think of American people.
Okay.
Yeah, that you in Utah, you just carry guns, eat fast food, watch basketball, and go to the church.
That's pretty damn accurate.
That's most of
It's
the bases
accurate,
covered.
except for the fact that nobody cares about the Jazz, right?
It's true. Everybody's a basketball fan. They're just not a fan of the Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
Although, you know what? Utah did pretty good last year, so people started coming around.
Well,
You have so
give
many
it another
losing
year,
yeah,
and
you
if
have
they
so
do
many
good,
losing
yeah.
seasons, eventually you're like, the
Yeah.
Lakers are coming to town. But we lost Hayward this year, and I don't hardly follow basketball, but I think that's a thing. I think he was sort of one of our star guys.
Didn't you guys have someone that was a good 3-point shooter at one point in time?
I don't know.
Some white guy.
Yeah.
Usually the white
John
guys.
Stockton?
Yeah, John Stockton. That's the guy, John
Stockton
Stockton.
and Karl
Yeah,
Malone.
that was in like 91.
Yeah, the golden
That's how
age is-
current I am with
those guys
Utah
could be dead
Jazz.
by now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
I don't know.
Yeah, but Jordan was, in the middle of the way. Right?
yeah.
Was bad times for Utah. Best times and bad times at the same time. So it's hard. So another thing that I have learned that Ryan said before is that here you can do everything without jumping out of the car, like just driving through.
Going through the drive-thrus.
Yeah, yes, going
Yeah, we
through
ran
the
about 6
drive-thrus.
errands today, and we only got another car for
Yeah.
one.
Nice.
Yeah, it wasn't
Which
bad.
one are they failing?
Well, we had to go to a flower shop. My wife had surgery this
Dude,
week.
you could have
and so
just
we
had
bought
that
some flowers.
delivered.
I know. Well, that was poor planning on my
know.
part. Otherwise, I would have had it delivered.
Yeah. So I know that even you sometimes, you in particular, Mike, you sometimes sleep in your car. But
Shh, don't tell people.
I know. But what I mean is that I understand that because here cars are so big that, in Spain, for example, your car is bigger than my apartment in Spain.
Really?
Yeah, your truck is like a commercial vehicle.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's
I
a
love it.
camper.
No,
So,
I just
yeah.
got a little piece of crap Honda just for commuting, and I tried to sleep in that last night.
I mean, yeah, when you
well.
travel, you know, I know with that you do these videos because you travel a lot.
Well, if I were to buy a hotel everywhere I went and played, my budget's not big. I do it because I love doing it, and I
And
like
now
going to
with
see
these
people.
fires,
Yeah,
so difficult right now, I know.
yeah.
So this leads me to another thing, that is that here everything is bigger. I'm not gonna make the mistake of ordering regular size anymore. Okay, because regular in Spain is huge.
Yeah, the
So-
regular here is like a double size, whatever they've
Oh
got.
yeah,
Really?
I mean, yeah. The other day I ordered an ice cream and it was mini, and I say, oh yes, finally, this is the size I want, a mini.
And then it's twice the size of what you want.
Yeah, mini in the mini that you have here in America, in Spain is like medium or even large. So perfect. So it's another thing. And the last thing that I have learned these days, for example, I have read a new which says that the Red Sox, the Boston Red Sox, they stole pitching signals using the Apple Watch.
Really?
Yeah, from the New York Yankees in a game.
I didn't hear about that. When did that go down? Just
Yeah.
this week?
Yeah, this week actually. Yeah, maybe yesterday.
So you notice how when you watch the football games, they have their play cards or whatever, and he
Yeah.
holds it up over his mouth. And I was thinking, yeah, right. They're going to hire some dude to read lips to,
Oh, yeah.
and it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, for sure
I mean,
they
look
do.
at the Patriots. I mean, they
Yeah, that was
suck.
all-
Yeah,
thing.
that's what I wanted to say. Basically, it's like I have learned that New England sports team, they cannot win without cheating.
There we go. Steve kind of thing. I went on a trip,
just
came
break
back,
it
and
and then-
stopped, and never get back into it. I have a gym membership that I literally use for a shower when I'm on the road.
Yeah.
And I have one, like, there's one in town, so I could go and use it whenever I want, but I never do.
Yeah.
Just because,
Well, it's hard to get in that habit and hard to make it sort of a lifestyle. You know?
I have the same problem, like
Says this skinny fucker.
a mental strength.
Yeah.
Like I cannot keep up doing the gym stuff. Like actually, we have a gym in.
Yeah, we have a gym where we live, like in the complex.
And I've been going to the gym for maybe 10 days, not 10 weeks. I mean, 10 weeks, that's like, but for 10 days. And my favorite machine in that gym is like the vending machine with the drinks.
Yeah.
Like the Powerade machine. So, that's my favorite. So then
Yeah,
I
it's the
decided to
vending
quit.
machine. You put quarters in and you get a drink. That's my favorite machine in the gym.
The
It's a
best
vending
machine.
machine.
Now I'm working out
That's
playing
awesome.
FIFA.
And so Borja, got feeling better. Thank goodness. He weathered the storm and is feeling better. And however, he was kind enough to pass that disease along to me. And so earlier this week, I was deathly ill, crazy fevers, all this kind of stuff, just a nasty flu. And here comes the day of the Young Thug show. So on, I think it was the 15th, is that right? And so Young Thug was supposed to play Salt Lake the 15th. And I told Borja, I was just like, dude, I'm dead. I was like, try and find somebody to take my ticket and see what you can do.
At first, I thought that you were pretending because I know you really like this pop music, like Mo, for example.
That's right. That's right.
Like your soft side. And
Yeah, I'm kind of a
instead
chick on the
these
inside.
Kind of thugs and gangsters.
Yeah. So yeah, Young Thug's a little heavy for me, but and so anyway, so I told him, I was like, man, I'm dead on my feet. I had already canceled recording the show, the podcast with Mike. I was like, dude, I'm dead. I can't do anything. And so Borja canceled or was able to find a friend to go with. That friend, of course, lived 45 minutes away from our house.
And there was an accident on the freeway, so it took me like 1 hour to go to Syracuse to pick my
pick him
friend
up
up.
and then go from
And
there.
then this was out at the Great Saltaire. And so for
Oh,
people
really?
that don't know the Saltaire is maybe 20 minutes outside of Salt
So I
Lake.
had to
Yeah, that's
drive
a
for
drive.
another
Out in the middle
hour.
of the desert. So not only did Borja have to drive an hour to pick up his buddy, drive an hour and 20 minutes back out to the venue. Then theoretically after the show they would drive back to Syracuse, so another hour and a half.
Yeah, when I thought I was almost in Alaska, because come on, I was driving like, where is this venue?
Yeah, of course, because it really is out in the middle of nowhere. It's out in the middle of the desert. And
Well, that's the best part about that venue because they can literally do like raves and outdoor parties all
yeah,
night
it's really
long.
a cool spot. And if you ever have the chance to go to a show at the Saltaire, it's really cool.
Yeah.
But so anyway, so Borja arrives, and after all this rigmarole, and I mean, I guess I could let him speak because I've been kind of
because
rapping.
you said it is a cool venue, but actually, I don't know, because when I arrived, it was dark. I mean, no lights at all.
You had to park out on the street. No one there.
No one there. And I say, and my friend was like, "Oh, are you sure that today is the concert?" And I say, "Yeah, come on, I'm sure that is here." I say, "But nobody's here," and I was so excited. I didn't want to believe that the concert was not gonna happen, and I say, "Oh, maybe they are inside already."
and I mean, the Saltaire's is surrounded by kind of a big parking lot. Like, I mean, Mike's been out there with me before.
We've had to park on the street.
They can fit several hundred cars in there. So Borja's in the middle of this parking lot alone, assuming everyone's just inside, enjoying the show while he's out in the parking lot alone.
Yeah, maybe the parking lot was close to us because the concert was at 7 and it was 7 already. We were kind of late. But we knew the concert was not going to start at 7, of course. I mean,
right. So, but wasn't there was somebody else showed up, right?
And we found out a car, and in that car there were a couple inside. There was a couple inside, and they told us, "Hey, you don't know what? We don't know what." I mean, the concert was just rescheduled for the December 20th, right? And say, "What? I have no idea about that." No, they send you an email and like. An email. Oh, they sent the email to Ryan, but
But I was so sick I hadn't checked my email.
That sucks.
So I didn't know. Now, so two things on this.
Thank you, Ryan.
So first of all, all right. So random couple that shows up in the parking lot who knows the show's canceled. Why are they there?
Yeah,
that's just they told their parents they were going to a concert, and you interrupted their makeouts.
Yeah, right. That was some prime necking time out there in that dark parking lot.
But on your defense, we have to say that they sent that email at noon.
Yeah, well, and that's my second point.
Same day. That is pretty.
So they sent the email at like 12:45 the day of. And I mean, okay, now maybe this is the artist's fault, maybe it's the venue's fault. I don't know whose fault. I suspect it's the artist because the artist is coming back at the end of. He's doing December. Our show at the end of December,
and Lil Pump is coming too.
Yeah, and now this dude Lil Pump is coming, and so but he's also doing a New Year's show in Colorado. So I suggest he canceled this one so he could come a little closer to New Year's and then go to
double
Colorado.
Up instead of fly out
because
twice.
Migos are coming too.
Yeah, because now Migos is coming and playing in Salt Lake, and so anyway, so I think there's some fuckery afoot. But we love him, and I think we're all the better for having him. So the next clip we wanted to share is, maybe, I don't know, one of our more professional guests, we should say. He is a really great guy. He sat down and shared some really cool insights with us. He's owner of Relic Agency in Provo, Utah. His name's Adam Stoker. He's a guy that I know from the way back. And he was kind enough to come online, talk a little bit about marketing to millennials, and starting your own agency, and a handful of other things. Really cool interview, fun guy, and I think you'll like this clip.
So, why Relic? I was reading an article saying that it was like titled. We rebranded, but we're not trying to be a relic. We're trying to be, forward thinking with it. What's the decision to go with Relic over another name?
Well, it's really easy for ad agencies to rebrand another company, but when it comes to your own company, it's very, very difficult. And so we worked on this rebrand for a long time, and what we came down to is the whole reason that ad agencies were created was to generate more sales for their clients. Right,
that makes sense.
And so somewhere along the line, especially with the emergence of digital marketing over the last 10 years, I think it's migrated all the way to a focus on vanity metrics, like likes, clicks, impressions, page views. And the real question you have to answer is, did my client make more money as a result of using me, right? And so we feel like we're somewhat of a relic in that we judge our success by sales
instead
and only
of
sales,
likes and clicks and page views,
as opposed to vanity metrics.
That makes sense.
Okay, yeah, that's really interesting. Well, and what's especially interesting too is because here in Provo, also just for people not familiar with the area, Provo's got like a very vibrant startup business scene, really tech savvy, really tech forward part of the country. In fact, they're calling this area Silicon Slopes
Well,
now.
Adobe's, 15 minutes from here?
Yeah, Adobe's
And that
not
tells you
far.
a lot.
Oracle, many others, and lots of local tech startups, things like that. So it's interesting, because you're right. I mean, really the bottom line in advertising is that ROI, right? I mean, are we actually getting paid back for the money we're spending? And, but all this tech is sort of driving this vanity-based model. And so I'm sure that's a bit of a challenge. So given that your sort of focus is actually on making them money versus making them popular, how do you break into Provo, which is such a tech-savvy area and stuff like that? Do you look for clients in that type of industry, or do you stay with more traditional advertising clients, or what do we do?
So the agency has 3 industries that we really focus on. The first is tourism. And so we've had tourism for years, right? And we've got Bryce Canyon tourism. We do Tuacahn and St. George, Cedar City tourism, Vernal tourism. We work with several tourism offices across Utah. And so that's one. We also work with telecom companies. So that would be internet, TV, and phone.
And didn't you pick up a fairly large client in Wisconsin that's a telecom client just off of a cold call?
Yeah, at the time they weren't, it wasn't a Wisconsin-based company. At the time it was a small regional telecom. And I saw their name was Baja Broadband. I saw one of their trucks driving by. My job was to grow the business, so I called off the side and asked for the director of marketing. 2 years later, they were spending $2 million a year with us. They were purchased by TDS, who is a Fortune 500 company out of Madison, Wisconsin.
Wow, that's incredible.
And really the part where I tried not to toot my own horn earlier. I'm going to toot it now. We were able to retain TDS as a client, even though they were a Fortune 500 company taking over
and they got bought out.
A small regional business.
And for a young agency and just having been over this little piece of regional business, I mean, that's a huge success.
It was awesome.
All right. So next we have Deli Fresh Threads.
Yeah, the owner of Deli Fresh Threads, a Florida-based clothing company, a guy named Biggie Bencomo, came on the show. He had a lot of interesting insights. He basically built an entire clothing company around his fascination with sandwiches.
Which is amazing, by the way.
It is amazing, and the line's great. You got to check it out. You may have noticed they've been listed as a show sponsor, and you get a little discount if you use our promo code at his site.
That's EGGSSHOW, Eggs Show.
For people who don't know the backstory, Mike is saying those letters to me because I tried to say how important it was to do that. So now he won't stop it. So, however, it's more correct to do that, I think. So anyway, we're trying to figure it out. Let's roll the tape.
So since I went to school at UCF, I became very passionate, super diehard UCF guy, and I had a whole bunch of friends. And I had this idea for at the time wrestling was really big and NWO was huge. And I had this idea for a UCF shirt that just basically looked like NWO because UCF 3 letters, just like NWO. I went to 3 or 4 shops that sell UCF stuff, said, hey, I have this awesome idea. You should make it. And no one wanted to make it. And so one of my roommates was like, dude, he's like, why don't you just do it yourself? Just start a business and do it. And so me and 2 other buddies, it kind of worked out great because one buddy was accounting, one was technology. He was a computer science person, computer engineer, and then I was the marketing part. And it was way ahead of its time in the sense that it was right when online shopping was becoming more known, but it wasn't as popular or as kind of normal as it is now. And so I did that when I graduated college, and it was just something I loved. It was something I was passionate about. I had no problem packing orders at night and doing stuff like that, and then selling when we would tailgate at games. But the bad thing about doing college athletics is if your team sucks, then your sales suck. And I've experienced during that time, I experienced perfection. A lot of teams try to go for perfection. I went perfection. Our team went perfect, but went perfect 0-12, not winning a game. So and because of that, my team went 3-9 and 0-12. And being so a kind of an apathetic fan base, I was almost ahead of my time. And so because of that, I ended up it just didn't work out. But I always had a passion and love for T-shirts. Time goes by, and I got married, had kids, and it was just one of those things where I told my wife, I was like, I enjoy my job, but it's a corporate job, and it's very monotonous and very process driven. And I go, there's a part of me dying. And everything else in life is good, but I need that outlet. And so the big thing that ended up happening was I kind of was like, I need something, I need an outlet. And so I have always loved sandwiches. I'm obsessed with sandwiches. And so because of it, we ended up, I ended up going, I'm like, let me sandwich my two passions, T-shirts, sandwiches, and create my own brand. And then but it took me a while to get there. Like I basically, for a long time, it was like, what do I want to do? I started reading, Gary Vaynerchuk books. Crush It was one of the big books I read about doing stuff with your passion. And then at that same time, I was seeing stuff with with Johnny Cupcakes and everything, and listening to him. And it just was one of those things where I just, it was kind of like it just clicked. And I said, this is what I need to do. I need to come up with a brand. No one else is doing this. And food is so popular that why not create my own food type, themed clothing brand with like sandwiches.
So did you cook a lot as a kid, or like?
I didn't cook.
Where's the love for sandwiches come from?
Where's the love of sandwiches? Yeah, so my dad made me sandwiches all the time. Made me lunch sandwiches for breakfast. All the time. I had it for lunch, and I always made things into sandwiches. Like everything I would come up with would come into a sandwich. Like I would do spaghetti. Like my mom would make me spaghetti. I would make them into spaghetti sandwich. So I would do with the bread.
That sounds really good,
right? Have you ever done it? Like, let me tell you, I have a restaurant that does it. If you next time you go to an Italian restaurant, ask for a meatball sub, and then just say, hey, can I get a side of spaghetti with that? But then what you ask them to do is ask them for like a small side of spaghetti, have them cut up the meatballs and the spaghetti together, and then put it on the bread, and then have them put cheese on top. That thing is so flipping awesome.
You throw it in the broiler real quick.
Yes, exactly.
Lunch item.
Yes. So let me tell you, I make everything into a sandwich. I pretty much have always had that way. And ironically, my mom and dad were always the type where sandwich, that's not for dinner. You don't have sandwiches for dinner. You have a real meal, for dinner. But my brain would always go there. And so as time went on, it just basically just grew. And I just, became obsessed with it, where I was always making something into a sandwich. I make desserts into sandwiches. Cupcakes become sandwiches to me. I pretty much see sandwiches.
Well, you got Thanksgiving coming up. You got to do the mashed potatoes and turkey.
Heck yeah,
sandwich,
man! I call them little pilgrim sliders, is what I call them. I use the leftover dinner rolls, and I make them that way. Those are my favorites. And then, even though it's not sandwich related, there's another thing that I do that's phenomenal. We do with our leftovers. So, like my two favorite things for leftovers when I do Thanksgiving, especially with this coming up, the pilgrim sliders, and then I also do this thing that I found online. It was leftover egg rolls, Thanksgiving egg rolls. Man, those things are flipping amazing. Like I almost want to have Thanksgiving a week before so that I have those leftovers to make the egg rolls and have Thanksgiving sandwiches during that time.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing at all.
The practice turkey and just have it waiting.
Exactly. Super, super easy stuff. I mean, it's amazing.
So I think this guy is my favorite of the year.
Yeah, this was a really exciting show for us. It was another pivot point, actually. It was another interview with a guy. However, this was an on-site interview and with a musician.
Yeah.
We're, of course, talking about Desi Valentine. And Desi is a singer-songwriter out of Brooklyn.
It has a song.
No, not Brooklyn. He's out of UK, right?
Yeah, out of the UK. Britain.
Catsford or something.
Yep.
And
you know something interesting about that city? Oh crap! There's a cat fact. They have a huge statue of a cat.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so I'm right. It's Catsford.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, he's from the UK, British singer-songwriter. He had a song featured in the TV series Suits, in the big finale for Suits, and it sort of blew up a little bit. And he's sort of on tour now, celebrating some of the success that came from that. He's also been a backup for the likes of Elton John and Debbie Harry and some of these amazing musical figures.
Just being on the stage with that caliber of people is amazing.
Yeah, and he's also performed in the West End in England.
Well, Vintage Trouble, I mean, they're huge. I mean, they're a big deal. They opened for the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
So just to be on tour with them is a pretty big deal.
Yeah. So anyway, we got a really cool opportunity to sit down with Desi backstage at the concert. So it's I think maybe one of the more memorable interviews we did too, because
they're doing the sound checking. Yeah.
And I think that was kind of interesting. It gave kind of another layer of flavor or something.
Yeah, it was kind of cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And actually, it sort of set us up. We have a few musicians we're working on for interviews the first part of the next year. And part of that was because of how well it went with Desi. So let's play the tape. What are some influences and things that steered you towards music and performing?
Born and raised in Catford, London. It's about half an hour out of the centre of London. I grew up in a house full of music. My mum and dad were huge music heads. Vinyl records from the floor to the ceiling with every different style, all the way from Edith Piaf to Ella Fitzgerald to Bob Marley. Really
very eclectic music taste.
Yes, bathed in a lot of different type of music, and I initially. I started actually just like singing and dancing and those type of things when I was 8 years old. That's when I first got into it. I first started doing.
So did you play any instruments, or was kind of singing your main thing?
Singing was always my main thing. I only ever started learning an instrument over the last year. I started playing the piano.
Nice.
Yes.
Are you kind of going the classic style, or more of like improv kind of?
I'm doing a bit of a mixture of everything. So kind of having like one classical piece to learn, one like cover pop piece that I would do, like I would cover, and then learning my own original music, how to play that on the keys as well.
That's awesome.
Great. And you do your own writing, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, that's awesome. So in 2009, you dropped your first album called Back to Me. Can you tell us about the process of getting that made, any challenges you had to overcome and things like that in the production? Now, we were talking earlier before the show, and we realized we've come quite a ways since then, but since this was maybe your first album, I thought it'd be interesting to touch on it.
Well, Back to Me, I learned so much making that record.
You collaborated with a guitarist, Mose Tronchi. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah, Mose Tronchi.
Yeah. Oh,
Tronchi,
okay.
yes.
Italian
guitarist.
I'm probably going to slaughter a bunch of those today.
So me and Mose came together and created an entire album, but it was very, very different style than what I make now. I was really inspired by rock and roll and rock music and digging into like blues and that kind of even experiencing metal music for the first time, and like the White Stripes and Creedence and all these different types of twists on rock and roll music, and really inspired me at the time, and that's the type of album that I ended up making.
So being from England, are you, and maybe you can't speak for other people, but are artists generally inspired by American music, things like that? It seems like most of the things you're listing off seem to be sort of American classics. Is that something that inspired you early on?
For me, yes. I mean, I grew up with a lot of that type of music. I think, just because my parents were particularly into that. So I think like a lot of American influences came through.
So like the Sam Cooke and the Otis Redding and stuff like that.
Yes.
It's just from your parents. I also noticed that you were into Mozart and like Bach and classical as well, which I don't know how that would influence the music you do now, but I could totally relate. I played classically when I was a kid. So,
oh, really?
I spent hours learning All a Turk by Mozart.
Oh, man. It's so... The pieces are beautiful. I learned a lot from just being soaked in classical music, and I think it genuinely makes your brain function better, like in general, and like the intricacies that go into classical music. I mean, you can't help but grow as a human being, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, my mum particularly was very much into classical music as well, so we would play the vinyls of the classic records as well.
Well, and so that's sort of your background, right? Because from a young age, you trained as a musician at the Italia Conti School of Performing Arts, which I suppose is a classical school, right?
Or it's actually more of a musical theatre kind of style of training. So they really train you very much in singing, dancing, acting. They do music theory, and they kind of ground you in that, so you have a strong music knowledge in general, but it's geared and shaped to be more of to go onto the West End and Broadway shows rather than that.
So for those who don't know, because I didn't know before today, West End is essentially London's version of Broadway.
Yes,
right?
Yes, sir.
Well, and so speaking to that, so as you came out of the Performing Arts School, you moved into theater, performing in the original West End production of Mel Brooks' The Producers, and also you played the lead role in Fame. Can you
Tyrone Jackson.
Can you tell us about the, I guess, going from school to performing at such a high level? Because I mean that's no schlub's performance there. Those are big roles. And then sort of what that experience was like versus where we'll go next, which is transitioning into music.
Well, it's highly competitive, that world. You know, you really have to be, you're only as good as the audition that you do, you know, so that all of the training that you go through is basically preparing you to be able, at a moment's notice, be able to perform these really challenging songs and be able to pick up dance routines and do both of those things at the same time and embody acting skills and bring these stories to life. You know, producers in particular we got to work with Mel Brooks himself, because it was the original cast of it.
Oh wow! What an awesome experience that must have been.
It was. I still can't believe it, and it was, you know, 10, 15 years ago, you know.
Before all this is going on now.
This completely different lifetime. And to learn from those people, you know, I was 18, 19 at the time, working with Mel and Susan Stroman, these incredible people. You can't help but see how much expertise and
knowledge they bring to the table.
Knowledge, and it's really incredible.
Well, yeah, and at such a young age, that had to be incredibly influential.
Yes.
Even though your sort of next step in your career path was transitioning into a music career versus a theater career, I have to imagine the experiences you took from that will last throughout your career.
Yeah, I bet it still has an effect on your show today, just your live show. Yeah.
Big time. I mean, that's really where I learned to truly be comfortable on stage and to be able to connect to an audience in that respect. But it's just a very different thing when it's your own story and your own songs that you've written, rather than bringing somebody else's story to life, you know?
Yeah,
so,
yeah, that's got to be completely different.
It's a very, very different thing. But I learned so much. Doing the shows. But there's really nothing like performing your own music.
Yeah, I can imagine. So in 2012, you decided bon voyage to London and came over to LA and started kind of trying to hone in on who you are and your own music style. And I read somewhere that you had a mohawk and you went through kind of like a rock pop phase, and you kind of just took a little while to kind of figure out, you know, this is what I do, this is who I am. And Adele's 21 had a huge influence on that?
Big time. Because I'd made the album over in England, Back to Me, it was very rock influenced, it was very guitar led, and it was still a pop, because it's still a pop project, because I'm definitely a pop artist, but I was drawing a lot of influence from, you know, Creedence and even Lenny Kravitz and those types of things. So when it came to, I wanted to fully embody that style, so I had a completely different look. That was my way of expressing myself at the time. I was coming backwards and forwards from London to LA, and I was starting to make the transition. And it was just at that moment that they dropped the 21 album by
That was
Adele.
in 2011, I think.
2011.
Yep.
And I listened to it and I was so completely moved that it's
Yeah,
such
that kind
an
of changed the face
incredi-
of music at the time. Nothing else like that was out.
It was just its own beautiful, raw, and like encapsulating like what it was like to put, like, literally pour your heart out onto a record and let it just be vulnerable for everybody to see it. It really moved me, and I was like, I can make music like this. I think that this is the next step for me. It just organically, I was searching at that moment anyway. I felt a little bit lost musically as to what was going to be the next thing for me. And it just fit into place, and it kind of penny dropped on many levels, because people had said that to me over the time that I was making like the rock music and doing that kind of thing. People were like, you know what you should do? You should do like a Amy Winehouse-y kind of thing. You should do like a throwback thing or whatever. But me being a stubborn bastard that I am,
I'm good.
I'm like, yeah, that's cool. That sounds like a great idea. You grab me a baked potato, I'll meet you there. But ultimately, it was right, because that's what my voice belongs to, you know.
That was Desi.
Yeah, still maybe one of my favorite interviews, and
Well, it was an awesome interview, but he was an awesome guy.
yeah, well,
Just really humble, really polite. Just all in all, an awesome individual.
Yeah, super friendly and just gross talented.
Yeah.
Like when you get out and watch this guy perform, which you should, it's amazing. He was so great. He just has sort of these, I don't know, he has this kind of vintagey sound that sounds like some throwback
Soul,
from the 50s
yeah.
or something. And it's just, I don't know. It cuts through
like-
sort of what's out there in the popular music.
Crooner Adele, like just a weird hybrid voice, just really
Cool. So do check him out. Go check out his website, and I think he's got a new EP coming out before too long. So
Nice.
So keep your eyes peeled for him. The last clip we want to share is kind of a recent one, but it was one of our, also maybe more exciting interviews of the year. We're talking about MasterChef winner and author Sean O'Neill.
Yep.
Sean is a Las Vegas-based DJ / turned
Chef.
super chef.
Yeah.
He was on.
He doesn't like to be called a chef. I think he's still humble about that.
Yeah,
you know?
and so, but he's well, at the time of this recording, I think maybe he's just getting back from Costa Rica, having been over there cooking.
He's doing it like a come to Italy with me and learn how to cook.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Like,
I'm so
how awesome would that be?
Yeah,
I'm going to go to Italy. I'm going to teach some people how to cook. Yet I'm learning how to cook. While I'm there.
What a deal. Yeah. And so Sean was winner of Fox's MasterChef Season 7, hosted by Gordon Ramsay and Christina Tassi. And now is, I guess, as part of winning the show, you get a cookbook. And so he's got his new cookbook called My Modern American Table. And it's out now and available for purchase and everything, and it's super cool. I got one on the slide.
Nice,
I'll tell you, Mike, but I never ordered one.
Okay.
And so I'm looking forward to cooking some of Sean's recipes, and because after that show, man, it kind of went game on. Like I started wanting to cook, and
it's amazing.
Yeah, I got all excited, and I started doing some fun things.
I noticed that this morning with the Spanish tortilla.
Yeah,
you were there, like so excited, like trying to help.
Yeah, I was totally supervising until I slipped off and fell asleep watching soccer. But yeah, no, after Sean's episode, like, I mean, I took my chicken and veggies game to like a whole new level. Like, I mean, now I'm doing all kinds of different things and experimenting and trying stuff, and it's all, influenced by our interview with Sean.
That's awesome.
And so anyway, he was a really great guest, really exciting guy, great personality, and a lot of fun. So I think you're going to enjoy this clip. So you brought it up. Let's talk MasterChef.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about the process of getting on the show? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people apply, but very few actually make the show. So how'd you make yourself stand out? What was the application process? How does that even work?
Yeah, a lot of people do apply. My season was around 35,000 people that auditioned across the country.
And they narrow that down to like 40, right?
They take out around 80 out to LA, but it's a long process. Like it's 5 or 6 months of submitting recipes back and forth into MasterChef. Now you start off by going to an open casting call, which they have all over the country. I think they stop in like 20 different cities every time they do an open casting call. So they had their first one ever in Vegas. I went down there. I'm a fairly bold, loud personality, so I had no shyness in the whole process.
Which I'm sure the producers love.
Yeah, they love that. I mean, it's food first, but there's always, obviously it's TV, man. So and there's going to be a personality aspect to it always. You can't clam up, you can't freeze, under pressure. And then you got to remember that they're looking at people that are going to have to be able to handle the Gordon Ramsay pressure. Right?
Yeah, that's a whole nother level of pressure right there.
Exactly. This is not normal pressure. So it's they definitely take a long time. 6-8 months of just sending recipes once you've gotten past the first couple steps. The first step is taking a plate in and serving it. You got about 40 other people in a room with you, and there's probably like 4 or 5 judges walking around. Which are usually like local chefs or chefs that they've worked with in the past and stuff like that. So, and then it just it moves pretty fast. It's a lot of months, but it moves pretty fast because you're constantly sending in recipes, sending in all kinds of paperwork. They check your background, they do some investigating on you. So
when you get approved to go to LA and go to the MasterChef kitchen, do they kind of do a walkthrough with you, or do they just throw you in there and, hey, here's Gordon and cook for him?
So when you get there, there's still more people than will be on the filming. So it's still a lot of cooking. It's basically the people that they're not, that are maybe are right on the edge that they want to see more of. You get there and you're in there cooking. No Gordon Ramsay, no anything like that. But it's all about food. It's all about who can put out the best food.
Cool.
But it's not really a competition. It's really just a bunch of people over your shoulder,
Just watching everything you do.
At that point, it's not a competition.
Okay, so as you go through the process, you go through these different rounds of elimination, you make it through to the first show. Mm-hmm. So do you remember your first dish on MasterChef, the surf and turf with lobster and the bone marrow sauce?
Yeah.
The way they portray it on TV, now obviously there's some dramatic effect added and things like that, but it looked like you barely got plated, and it was possible that you could have missed out on the whole season.
Yeah, it looked like you had 30 seconds left and had
it did come down to the wire. The dramatic music made it a little more dramatic, and plus you can't get into my head. So I was cooking foie gras, right? So I knew that had to cook last minute. I maybe could have started my plating a little sooner to save everybody a little bit of a panic attack. But in my head, I knew that the foie gras was last second cooking. So I knew I was trying to start plating with about 20 seconds left. I knew exactly, in my head, I knew exactly where everything was going to go, how I wanted the plate to look. So it was really about getting that foie gras cooked last minute, because I didn't want Gordon Ramsay to eat a piece of foie gras that was pre-cooked, had sat there for 5 minutes, gotten cold and congealed and nasty.
So how does that work? Because when they do the judging, it almost looks like your food has to sit there for a little while they, go over the other guy's dish. And if you're last in line, does that kind of give you?
Sometimes. They say that they never judge on temperature. So it's a fine line, but they're in there the whole time that you're cooking. So they're walking around, they're tasting stuff. If you see if during the show you see them coming around, dipping their spoons
stick a spoon
in stuff,
there or whatever.
They do that for every single person every time we're cooking. And then you got to remember that we have Gordon Ramsay standing up there. So if he sees something wrong, he can tell something's wrong from across the room. He can tell you're doing something that's not the right way, and he knows when flavor profiles are going to crash. So he can tell from across the room when you're messing up. So a lot of times the contestant makes it easy on their decisions. They kind of, just watching the challenge, they already kind of know who's failed and who's succeeded.
So you get the white apron, you're in the show. What's the process like from there? Is it like a month straight of just filming every day, or is it kind of
I mean, it's nonstop until, we're basically, what I usually tell people is we're basically on a Hollywood cameraman union schedule, right? So we can film as long as the cameraman can be in the studio, we can be there too. There's no union for reality. The reality contestants. So, but yeah, it's nonstop. Usually weekends off, but it's nonstop until you get eliminated or win the show.
Wow.
So how does that work though too? Like just in the preparation of food and things, I mean, I guess you've submitted recipes and things like that, but how much is done in advance versus how much is done on the fly? Like, I mean, I guess somebody's got to be preparing ingredients and getting things bought. And
So for example, that first dish, the surf and turf, did you know you were making that to go into it, or did they say, hey, here's the ingredients we have, make something?
It was a last minute surprise. So we knew with a few seconds. Yeah, when they told us, when you saw them tell us, that's when we knew. But they knew we were both Vegas. And another thing, you're doing interviews with these guys, so sometimes they'll sneak in a couple questions like, what would be your ideal surf and turf, right? So they in a pre-interview, they might already have that information and have some of that food out for you.
So you kind of have it going in your head what you might do.
Not really you, because you don't really know. So. Like they might ask, let's just say this, they might ask you a question, what would be your food that you would have on a deserted island, right? And then maybe a few weeks later, you might have that in a pantry or something like that. So they kind of will feel you out a little bit here and there. But no, you don't ever know until in the heat of that moment.
That's crazy. All right. Well, that was Sean. Winner of Master Chef Season 7.
Yeah, and sad to say, it's our last clip of the clip show.
It's actually our last clip of the year.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And, it'll be
2018 when we do this again.
Next time you hear from us will be 2018. We've got some exciting stuff in the works for the first couple weeks of January. Looking forward to some of these first few shows. I think we're starting to hit our stride and get some momentum going, and it's feeling real good. So, So on that note, I mean, anything
Happy
else,
New
fellas?
Year.
Or are we?
I just wanted
to
to our audience that don't worry, I'm gonna be in the show for the next year too. Okay.
We know you were worried. We know. So, and especially after hearing those clips earlier in the show, I know you were concerned.
Yes,
but
and I'm really excited about a new X season.
Yeah, I think next year is going to be really exciting. Really exciting. And I can't wait to see what we come up with and how we grow and how we keep moving this little egg along.
Yeah, I'm going to be spending almost a month and a half straight in Chelan this summer.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have to get big on the wine business, and let's get some wine folks coming.
Well,
because that
there we
Chelan
go.
wine is
pretty
not
tasty.
So. All right. Without that, thanks so much to everybody who listens to the show, follows us on social media, everything. I mean, granted, we started the show for us, but really it's about you guys, and it's about, spreading the word and trying to produce a quality product that, enriches people's lives in one way or another. This is the channel we've chosen to do that with, is with our podcast. And, we take a great deal of satisfaction from the, positive feedback and the
support that we get from you.
Yeah, the support that we get from the
even just
listeners.
likes on Twitter and Instagram. It's cool.
Every little thing is warm fuzzy.
Unless it's a bot. Yeah, and they're like, "Hey, you want?
You know what? Though, I'll take the
for-"
bots. The bots make me feel okay too. It's really about self-esteem.
Yeah, every like counts.
So, but with that, again, thank you so much for sticking with us as we have gone through some growing pains and we've started to figure this thing out. Really excited to bring you some exciting new stuff in the next year. And see how our little egg thrives. So with that, Merry Christmas from me.
Happy New Year from me, because I hate Christmas.
Yeah, Feliz Navidad.
And I guess Happy Three Kings from Borja, because he's Spanish. And that's
there
what
you
they
go.
do over there.
Reyes Magos.
Yeah.
So I just got to share with the world.
Uh-oh.
The last song of my night.
There's not a closet anywhere near here. I just wanted to be sure he wasn't coming out. I mean, it's kind of a big moment.
I just, bah humbug, Christmas season. I just wanted the one Christmas song I ended my night with was actually two. Dick in a Box and Mr. Hanky the Christmas Pooh from South Park.
Yeah.
So that's the extent of Christmas for me.
Nah, he's full of shit. People don't listen to him. He's excited. He's got a red coat on right now with a big black belt. He's going to go deliver some presents and happiness and joy.
Can I be Krampus?
He's not wearing any
Is it
pants,
Krampus?
though,
Krampus?
so it's Krampus.
Yeah, I'd rather be Krampus. I just want to drop kick some kids. All
right. And on that super high note, Merry Christmas or whatever Krampus celebrates. And much love from the Eggs crew and family.
All right, bye.
We'll see you in 2018.